Have you ever checked your retirement account on a quiet Tuesday afternoon and felt a cold knot of anxiety in your stomach? Maybe you are 50 or 60 years old and you are looking at a balance that feels painfully small compared to the rising costs of the world in 2026. You see the headlines about inflation and the uncertainty of Social Security, and you wonder if you are just throwing your hard-earned money into a void. It feels like you are trying to fill a swimming pool with a teaspoon while the sun evaporates the water faster than you can pour it in. If that feeling sounds familiar, then I want you to know that you are not alone and you are certainly not failing. The truth is that most people start doubting their investment strategy, not because the math is wrong, but because the early phase of investing is designed to feel unrewarding. This is especially true for those who feel they are starting late in the game. Today, I want to walk you through the brutal reality of what happens in those first few years of building a nest egg when you are over 50. We are going to move past the hype and the empty promises of getting rich overnight. Instead, we are going to look at the psychological traps and the mathematical turning points that determine who retires with dignity and who quits right before the miracle happens. The economic landscape of 2026 is different from anything we have seen before. Prices at the grocery store seem to change every week, and the dream of a comfortable retirement feels like it is slipping further away for the average worker. To understand how to fight back, let us look at the story of a man named Arthur. Arthur is 52 years old and works as a senior accountant at a mid-sized firm. He is practical and disciplined, but for most of his life, he focused on paying off his mortgage and putting his children through college. Now in 2026, with his children graduated, he finally has the extra cash to focus on his own future. Arthur decides to start investing $1,000 every single month into a diversified index fund. On paper, this looks like a great move, but the human brain is not built to process long-term compound interest. Our brains are built for immediate survival and instant feedback. When Arthur stands in line at the supermarket and sees the total on the screen, he feels a deep urge to keep his money in his pocket. The logic of his survival brain tells him that $1 in his hand today is worth more than a potential $10 10 years from now. During the first 12 months, Arthur does everything right. He skips the expensive vacations, and he drives his 7-year-old sedan instead of upgrading to a new model. Every month, he sees $1,000 leave his checking account and enter the digital world of the stock market. But when he checks his investment balance after a full year, he does not feel like a winner. The market has been volatile, and after 12 months of discipline, his account sits at $12,400. He put in $12,000 himself, which means the world of finance only gave him $400 in return for an entire year of sacrifice. Arthur looks at that $400 and thinks about the nice dinner or the new golf clubs he could have bought instead. This is what we call the boredom stage, and it is the primary filter that separates the wealthy from the struggling. From a mathematical perspective, the system is working perfectly, but from a human perspective, it feels completely useless. In this stage, your contributions are doing all the heavy lifting, while the interest is barely visible. This is the exact moment where the majority of late starters give up. They tell themselves that it is too late, or that the small gains are not worth the lack of freedom in their daily budget. They watch their younger colleagues buying the latest electronics and taking trips to Europe, and they feel like they are missing out on life. They stop their automatic contributions and they decide to just enjoy their money now, since the future feels so far away and uncertain. But Arthur is different because he understands a concept called the identity shift. He decides that for the next 5 years, his investment account is not allowed to make him feel any emotion at all. He treats that $1,000 like a non-negotiable bill, just like his electricity or his insurance. He tells himself that he no longer owns that money because it belongs to the 70-year-old version of himself. He stops checking the balance every week and starts focusing on protecting the system he has built. In his second year, the world throws him a curveball. His air conditioning unit breaks down in the middle of a heat wave, and the repair bill is $3,000. This is a critical moment of testing. The old Arthur would have panicked and pulled that money from his investments. He would have justified it by saying it was an emergency, and he would pay it back later. But we all know that once you raid the retirement fund, the habit of saving is broken, and later rarely comes. Instead, the new Arthur views his investments as a sacred foundation that belongs to his future self. He finds a way to cover the repair by taking on a small consulting project on the side and cutting back on his dining expenses for 3 months. He protects his momentum because he knows that once you stop a snowball, it is twice as hard to get it rolling again. By the time Arthur reaches his 5th year, something subtle but profound begins to happen. His account has grown to over $70,000. For the first time, the monthly fluctuations of the market are moving his balance by more than his $1,000 deposit. On a good month, the account grows by $1,500, even though he only put in $1,000. This is the first tipping point. It is the moment when your money starts working harder than you are. It is no longer just a savings account. It is now a living engine that breathes and grows on its own. Arthur begins to see that his discipline was not just about the money, but about training his mind to see the invisible. Many people think that once they reach this point, the hard work is over. But in reality, this is when you must be most vigilant against lifestyle creep. As Arthur sees his wealth grow, he feels the temptation to finally buy that luxury car or move into a bigger home. He feels he has earned it after 5 years of sacrifice. But he remembers the data from the early 2020s. He knows that true financial security does not come from what you spend, but from the assets you own that produce income. He understands that if he buys the car today, he is essentially firing the silent workers in his investment engine. He stays the course and continues to live intentionally. Now, let us fast forward to when Arthur turns 60. He has been investing for 8 years now. His total contributions have been $96,000. But because of the power of compounding and the reinvestment of dividends, his account is now worth over $150,000. The gap between what he put in and what he owns is becoming a massive bridge of security. This is where the math starts to behave in a way that feels like magic. If the market performs at a historical average of 10%, Arthur's account could now grow by $15,000 in a single year. That is more than all his yearly contributions combined. He is no longer pushing the boulder up the hill. The boulder has reached the peak and is now starting to roll down the other side, gaining speed every second. He realizes that the $400 of interest he earned in year one was actually the most important $400 he ever made. It was the seed that made this massive growth possible. This is the phase of investing that is most dangerous for the impatient. Progress is now highly visible, but it is still not enough to retire uncomfortably. This is where people get stuck in the one more year syndrome. They see the growth, and they get greedy or they get fearful that a market crash will take it all away. They start listening to the sensational news reports that predict a global collapse. But if you have built a diversified portfolio and you have a cash cushion for emergencies, you do not need to fear the noise of the market. By the time Arthur is 65, he has a choice that most people his age do not have. His account has crossed the $300,000 mark. When combined with his Social Security benefits and his paid-off home, he can now generate a monthly income that exceeds his working salary. He has achieved what we call the handoff stage. His money has officially taken over the job of providing for his life. He can spend his mornings gardening or traveling without wondering if he can afford his bills. The reason Arthur succeeded where others failed is not because he was a genius or a lucky gambler. It is because he refused to quit during the first 5 years when everyone else was laughing at his small gains. He understood that time is the most powerful variable in the wealth equation, even if you start late. In 2026, the world wants you to be distracted and impulsive. Digital advertising is designed to make you feel inadequate unless you are spending money. Social media wants you to compare your internal struggle with everyone else's highlight reel. But the late investor who can master their own psychology is the one who wins. You do not need to be a millionaire to have a successful retirement. You need a system that works and the iron discipline to leave it alone. If you are currently in that boredom stage where your account feels like it is growing at the speed of grass, then I want you to take a deep breath. Look at the grocery prices and the rent increases as a reason to save more rather than an excuse to stop. Remind yourself that the heaviest lifting happens at the beginning. The first $50,000 is a grueling climb. The first $100,000 feels like an impossible dream. But once you cross those thresholds, the laws of mathematics take over the burden. Your only job is to stay in the game and protect your peace of mind. Do not let a bad month in the market or a loud headline convince you to destroy 20 years of potential growth. Focus on your daily habits and let the market focus on the long-term numbers. Protect your system at all costs from both external crises and internal doubts. When your income rises, move your contributions higher immediately before you get used to the extra cash. When life hits you hard, find a way to keep the system breathing, even if you have to lower the amount for a short time. The version of you that exists 10 years from now is counting on you to be steady today. They are sitting in a comfortable chair with a cup of coffee and a heart full of gratitude because you chose to be disciplined. They are not counting on you to be brilliant or lucky or to find a secret shortcut. They're simply counting on you not to quit when things feel slow. The income snowball is coming, but it only arrives for those who are still standing there to catch it. True wealth is the ability to wake up in the morning and decide how you will spend your time without checking your bank balance first. It is the power to say no to things that do not bring you joy. That freedom is worth every small sacrifice and every moment of boredom you are experiencing right now. Keep going because the second half of the journey is much faster than the first. Your turning point is closer than you think. Trust the process and trust your future self.